Willow, hi. Uh,
Hi.
it's been a couple months since I've seen you. The last time was when we were at the school, the ILC,
Yeah.
when we had the final experience with the interviews that you students did, and I felt at that time like each of you are great people and that you have so much to share. And that's why I wanted to interview. And I'm so glad that you offered to do that, Willow, because you have a unique perspective. You grew up right here in the Valley, and you have a lot of experiences that you remember and that you can share. And also, I'm sure you have a lot of perspectives on the future, which is one of the things I'm really interested in, because you're going to be here. I'm not. And I like to get your view on what you think it's going to be like. Do you want to say your full name for us?
Yeah. I'm Willow Frady. I'm 15 and a sophomore at the ILC. Maybe some things about me, I guess. I love theater and art and writing music and reading and writing stories. I also have my own small business. I make candles and body butter. I have lived here all my life in Twisp. I've moved around. I've moved 3 times, but always in Twisp.
Hey,
I don't know. That's probably it.
maybe a favorite color?
Oh, favorite color. I think blue is my favorite color. I just love the sky. Oh, yes. I love sunsets and sunrises. I'm the look at the sky person. Like, oh my gosh, let me take a picture of that.
Right, right. And we have spectacular skies here.
hmm
That's maybe one of our greatest possessions, if you could call it a possession. So, how did you know that the ILC was the right school for you?
I think I had the idea that I wanted to go to the ILC last year. I had heard about it from a friend. I heard about the thing that they had done, the trade up, where you go around town with a paperclip to different businesses and you ask them if they'd like to trade the paperclip for something bigger or better. And I heard that someone came back with a car. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I want to get a car. That just sounded super cool that they did that for school. And that was kind of the first spark of interest for me. So then I didn't end up going last year because of the whole COVID thing. My mom just wanted us to be home and homeschooled versus going to school only 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
So I homeschooled last year, and then this year I went and I visited the ILC just to kind of see what it was like. It seemed super interesting. It seemed independent, but also with community, which is what I liked. So I could kind of form my own thing because I'm very self-motivated, but also have the social aspect of it. So that sounded really cool. And then they were pretty full, so I didn't think I was going to get on the list. And then about a few days before school started, they had an opening. And so I was like, oh my gosh. My mom and I talked about it and decided that I would go. So yeah, that's pretty much how I kind of ended up going there.
Wow, what a great story. Yeah, so many really innovative things have come out of that school.
hmm
It's great. Do you dream of living somewhere else, or are you thinking of making a way so you can continue to live here in the Valley?
After I graduate, I'm definitely going to go somewhere else. I don't know where. I will always come back and visit the valley, but I've never moved out of the valley. So, I mean, I've traveled a little bit, but just a new place, a whole new perspective and climate and people and community and everything just sounds very exciting. My family and I might move sometime, either the end of this year or next year. We're not sure yet. It's a possibility, which sounds very scary because of change, but also exciting.
So, what kind of technology do you use every day?
So I have a cell phone, which I don't think I use as much as, probably the average human being. I try not to. Sometimes, some days are more than others. I mostly use it to text or call friends and like my family. I also listen to music a lot and take pictures and videos. So probably that's the most. And then at school, we use the Chromebooks, which are pretty helpful. It's definitely different than in elementary school before we had them, but it is very helpful to be able to pull up tons of files and documents that I have and look over old ones. So that's probably it, those two.
Hmm. So you don't use television?
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. We do have a TV. That's not every day. Probably just on the weekends. We'll have like a family movie night or I'll watch a show with my siblings.
Hmm. Great. So, what is your biggest accomplishment so far?
Oh gosh. I think with my small business, probably actually having that running and having just, I think, doing well on that with the candle making. We actually had a sale on Saturday, and my sisters had some of the stuff that they had made, and we made $750. So that was really good. I was really proud of my sisters and I for making all that stuff and working hard. That's definitely an accomplishment. Some of the theater I've done as well in the past. I think my favorite that I've been in was the Best Christmas Pageant Ever. And that was when I was in 6th grade. And I was Alice Wendelkin, who is very bratty and snobby. And I think that I had to actually stretch my acting then. And that was kind of challenging for me. But I did it and it was really fun. So I think that was an accomplishment in that theater area of my life.
Right. I know your mom is very involved in theater too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's neat that you have that you share. So, who in your life has listened to you the most and actually heard what you were saying?
That's a good question. Well, probably one of my good friends. Her name is Bella. She is very good. She's actually a year and a half younger than me, and I think I always forget that because she definitely has wisdom beyond her years. And she gives me really good advice just for simple things and without it making it seem like she's trying to tell me what to do, just kind of offering it in a very subtle way. Because I think that I'm very independent and sometimes I just don't want to hear what other people have, like their advice, or I'll ask for it but not really want to take it because I just want to be able to figure it out on my own. And I also think my mom and I talk a lot about lots of different things, and she's a good listener.
That's great. Have you ever had a mentor?
Like for internship stuff for school
For any aspect of your life. And you could also look at it this way. What would you look for if you were going to have a mentor?
I think someone who kind of had dealt with similar things as me. So maybe like an older teenage girl or something, I guess, or kind of a young adult that had recently gone through things that I am going through now and knows how to get through it, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good answer. What are you doing when you feel the happiest?
I think maybe writing songs and just writing. Some of the songs I write are not the happiest. I mean, they're probably more emotional, angsty sort of songs. But when I finish one and then I look at it, even if it's just a rough draft, it's very exciting, especially when I see, because I started writing songs about a year ago, not ever really finishing one, just kind of writing little segments. And then when I look at my finished ones now, it's very exciting. And also writing, because I'm writing a book, currently. And when I read through the whole big, messy document and see how much I've written, that makes me very happy.
Is there anything that you like doing so much you would be willing to do it for free?
Maybe making music, honestly. I like that. I would say listening to music, but I don't know if I already am really listening to music for free.
Yeah.
But yeah, just stuff with music and writing is really great.
Oh, it is. It's like a whole different language, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
If you imagined the best possible world, what would it be like?
It would be without fighting, I guess, is kind of a cliche answer, but without war and with more peace and people, everyone's life mattering. And so kind of less death, even though death is part of the natural cycle of life, but just caring for each other. Yeah, I think that's kind of it, I guess. Lots of other little things, but that's the big picture.
Great. Yeah, that would be a wonderful world, wouldn't it? When everyone's life mattered.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And if you could change one thing about how life is right now, what would that be?
Probably, honestly, the whole COVID thing has really changed life for me. And I know that there are a lot of harder things, but it definitely feels like my teenage years feel very different than I imagined them, probably a lot because of COVID currently. So that would just be gone, I guess. And maybe sometimes I wish that things were like they were back when my parents were teenagers. I don't know. I guess they had problems too, but it's from the stories. It's like, oh, everything seems so much easier, less complicated.
Well, I'd have to say, looking back on my teenage years, it was a lot less complicated than it is now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think you're right. If you could just, with a snap of your fingers, wipe out COVID, a lot of people would be going, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
It would make a lot of people's lives better.
And I think now there's a lot more stimulus going on, especially for teenagers. And we kind of are expected to be adults younger than before there was all of this. And you have to kind of know what you believe in, know what you stand for and everything. There's like this whole just more pressure, I think, from society that younger kids don't have. But I think that the age of that pressure is just getting lower, I guess, or getting younger, that you have more pressure when you're younger.
That's a really good point. Yeah. Do you think that technology will be able to help solve the problems that we have in the world today?
I think that it could in some ways. I haven't really thought about it too much. In some ways, it is great. For instance, if you really are missing someone that is across the country, you can FaceTime them and see their face and hear their voice, and that can help, I guess. But that's not really a huge world problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think the science of it, I'm sure that there's new technical stuff that has saved people's lives. In some ways, though, I think that it was more simple before this, and so people had to find those answers more on their own and really do hands-on stuff because there wasn't a lot of stuff at their fingertips. I don't think it's our fault that we have these resources, but just before that, you had to really search for it more, like search for the answers.
And so, for instance, you wouldn't be able to call in the urgent care people to come if there was an accident. You'd have to help the person.
Mm-hmm.
Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Or with researching, you might have to go to a library and search for a book versus just Google.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
When I think about the card catalogs, they were huge drawers that you had to check every card in to try to find the books that you were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And so, is there anything that you would like to share with whoever gets to hear this interview?
I think something that I've learned recently in the last year is to remember to take time to make sure you're taking care of yourself, but also to not let that affect the way you treat other people. And just kind of making sure that you're taking some alone time if you need some, or getting outside, or reading a book, or taking a walk by yourself, listening to music, but to still treat people the same way and to let that kind of help you know how to love other people is kind of what I've learned, is that I like being with people, but honestly, being by myself just sometimes sounds really nice. But then I can become isolated and people feel like I don't want to hang out with them or that I don't like them. And to just, yeah, also to be clear with kind of your intentions and to say, not to always just say what you mean because that can be really blunt and hurtful, but to definitely let people know if you need to take some time to yourself, or let people know that you're thinking about them even if you are not with them.
Well, thank you for that. It is good to take care of yourself and be able to extend that kind of carefulness to other people too. People talk about the generation gap, and maybe there's a way that can be bridged so that people who are elders and people who are youngers can have more conversation. And so if you have any ideas on that, I'd sure like to hear them.
I think, like what we're doing right now, asking questions, because when someone asks you something, I think it really makes you feel valued, because it makes you feel like they really value your opinion and your advice that you have. I've definitely felt that with friends or with my family. And right now, it's just nice to know that someone wants to hear your voice. I think that because of the different time frames we live in, you really get a different perspective, because my answers are different because it's like a whole different time period, different place. So it's going to be way different, and that can really, I think, open your mind to a lot of other things. So yeah, probably just asking questions.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. Are you good at questions? Do you naturally just have curiosity that helps you just put it into words?
I think I'm better at answering most of the time than asking. Sometimes I have a lot in my head, but I don't really know how to put them into words. When it's questions that you know the answer to and you know exactly how you feel about that or what you think about the question they're asking you, that's very nice, because then you can be like, oh, I answered them. I gave them maybe what they were looking for or something, and it feels good.
Yeah. And so the picture I'm getting in my mind is of having a question box and people being able to pull a question out and then respond to that if they choose to, or if they don't like that question, to put it back and get a different one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's my little mental picture about how it could be.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll wrap it up there, Willow.
Yeah.
Those were my questions. I didn't know how long it would take, and you've really given some excellent and very thoughtful answers. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This was really cool to be on the other side.
Right. It's a totally different experience, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to thank you too for the questions that you shared with me on that day a couple months ago when you interviewed me.